This is the BabyAngelGeronimo editions of KhoodeelaarTV television channel being broadcast on the internet. This is 15:30 hours GMT and 16:30 hours UK British Standard Time. And this is the first edition or first part of today's editions. The focus is on the absolute, unprecedented speed with which Liez Truss has been unraveling, and the speed with which the mental slave Haque has been exposed as a sham success, academic success. So this is the second day of the weekend, if you like, editions of the Fleet Street newspapers, which have been brazen in their attacks on a incompetent pair, Liez Truss and Kwarteng. And one of the pieces in The Guardian is by a former conservative, Nick Bowles, who is saying that he was definitely going to vote Labour. Now, that is not something that should be seen as an achievement on the part of Keir Starmer. That is the collapse of the Liez Truss and Kwarteng duo of depraved liars is the direct and complete result and caused by their own evil, callous, cruel, contemptuous contempt towards ordinary people. And as we were saying in the last edition, the part 2 of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, dated Friday, the 30th of September 2022, the comment by the Daily Mail's Andrew Pierce, while appearing on Sky News' press preview of Thursday's papers appearing on Wednesday, words to the effect that HS2 should be scrapped, and that would avoid a lot of cuts that Truss and Kwarteng were making or going to make. And we said that the comment by Andrew Pierce was historic in that it was almost an honest comment by Andrew Pierce, who is not known for making honest comments, let alone original comment, let alone nearly truthful comments. Because Andrew Pierce is one of the Daily Mail's highly overhyped promoters and propagandists of the right-wing line and the reactionary line and the racist line. So this HS2 should be scrapped comment from the person connected to the Daily Mail constitutes a remarkable piece of statement in the House of Commons. And all the campaigners who are still campaigning to have the HS2 scrapped should have noted what Andrew Pierce said and should have elaborated on it, followed up on it, and remarked on the fact that someone of the extreme far-right media propaganda operations in the UK, as Andrew Pierce is, has made such a notable comment about HS2 being already superfluous and not central to the needs of people traveling on the trains. And we also said that Andrew Pierce went on to say that people were traveling less and less nowadays, and there was no demonstrable evidence that the HS2 would become a vital addition to the transport infrastructure in this country. Most people traveling on the trains, so 10 years ago, don't travel anymore. And that is because of the exorbitant charge traveling fees, the travel fees, tickets, train tickets. The main criticism of HS2 also includes the fact that £100 billion already wasted. £100 billion would more than adequately pay a full-fledged benefit to the people in hunger, in poverty, in destitution, kept in destitution, hunger, and distress by the conservatives. That refers to conservatives coming into so-called power in May 2012. Now, I drove the whole campaign, the KhoodeelaR campaign, and I noticed the KhoodeelaR campaign against the Crossrail hole. I noticed the stark absence of informed, rational, logical opinion on the part of those who were careless about the Crossrail hole plot against Brick Lane. And the same applies to the then sitting councillors, because our campaign started in December 2003 against Crossrail. So we were campaigning for five years, calendar years of the calendar years. Calendar years then. So the Crossrail hole plot was exposed at technical level, at political level, at ethical level, at moral level, and at practical level, because the Crossrail hole, being dug in Brick Lane, was not part of the Crossrail line or Crossrail actual alignment. It was an additional plot added to the Crossrail alignment, using or abusing the pretext that the line had to go through that part of East London, rather than along about 100 years to the south under the Whitechapel Road, which, if kept to that line, because that was the original engineer's draft, if the line was kept to that draft, then there would have been no need for the Khoodeelaar campaign to come into existence, or for the Khoodeelaar campaign mobilizing as many people as we did during the key hectic years. The only organization at the time that supported the Khoodeelaar campaign against Crossrail whole plot So we absolutely, totally positively note the comments made by Andrew Pierce as being correct. We also note with total contempt the absence of the Labour Party fronted by Keir Starmer making any comment about the unfitness, unsuitability, and irrelevance of the HS2 line. The fact that the Labour Party may be reacting later and adding some kind of token comments about HS2 will not have the same impact, the same kind of reference, and the same kind of relevance in context about the Labour Party being aware of key policies that were either wrong or they were being wrongly or wrongfully pursued by the Conservatives. We also said that the fact that Keir Starmer and West Streeting both supported the depraved DEPRA narrative and the lies against BabyAngelGeronimo represented evidentially the evil plot that DEPRA and the number 10 Downing Street cabal, as fronted by Boris Johnson at the time, they were plotting against the people. Not because the plot was a necessary wrong, because there was no alternative, but because there was an alternative, and this whole plot was an extension foisted mainly by the bribing of Ken Livingston Livingstone, who was seeking a third, I think, term as the mayor at the expense of London in 2008. And just before that, it was reported that Livingstone was bribed to the tune of several £1,000s by Gerald Ronson. Now, Gerald Ronson is one of the three City of London fraudsters who were in jail together or after being jailed together. Ronson was a conservative with a C, small c and a big C, and had no political history or reason to have anything to do with the highly self-promoted left-wing Labour politician Ken Livingstone, let alone to have any sympathy for Ken Livingstone so that he could be given any number, any amount of money, which Gerald Bronson paid or gave to the liar Livingstone. So Livingstone was open to bribery, which he was quite brazenly prepared to be known as in public. Because if he opposed bribery and corruption, he would have stopped it. He would have stopped the briber So today, Saturday, the 1st of October 2022, we note yesterday's Times newspaper, which ran the cartoon by their main cartoonist, Peter Brooks, calling Liez Truss Jemima clusterfuck. I mean, that cartoon caption could not be more straightforward and direct. And it was full of open contempt by the cartoonist for Liez clusterfuck. And that contempt for Liez clusterfuck has been widespread even after that particular cartoon was printed in the morning of the Times. Morning, when the newspaper printed version appeared, and people who still buy the hard paper version of the paper could see that cartoon as they sat in their proverbial breakfast table, around the proverbial breakfast table. The Jemima clusterfuck just does it. It shows that Liez Truss was a spent political entity. One of the conservatives has been quoted as saying that she won't last until Christmas. Now, even the evil Boris Johnson was not written off by conservatives as quickly as Liez Truss has been. I think that the comments about Uganda and Rwanda, and the comments about the fact that she is not for turning, and the claim that they are going to make the UK economy grow, etc., etc. These comments simply reinforce the view that Liez Truss is as crass. Liez Truss was as crass as the words showed. And it seems that she is even too shameless, too much lacking in morality, ethics, or self-respect to notice that while she is claiming to be another Margaret Thatcher, Thatcher never behaved in anything like that throughout her, let's say, 10 years at number 10 Downing Street. The points that I made about Martin Kettle in The Guardian on Friday. Martin Kettle is one of those Guardian writers who too have no morality about their behavior. I mean, he was claiming that he had been the one who had quietly been correct and been correctly observing Keir Starmer, as Starmer engaged in a long orthodoxy or long waiting game Starmer was playing against the Conservatives. And Kettle made bombastic claim that he was so correct himself, that is Kettle about Starmer, that if he had been collecting money on a bet based on the number of times he had been correct, then he would have made so much money by now that he would face no problem in paying the mortgage bills and paying for a disgusting, selfish, disgusting penny born. Not penny born, this Martin Kettle boasted that he was right about Keir Starmer's every move, and that he noticed that Keir Starmer was not in a rush. That means that, according to Kettle, the disaster that has befallen Liez Truss and Kwarteng was created by Keir Starmer's patience. So Kettle is giving all credit for the decline in the Conservatives' electability in a matter of 24 hours to the long game that Keir Starmer was playing, and the game being that Keir Starmer was waiting, simply waiting. Now that is total prostitution on the part of Martin Kettle. There is no other word for it. Martin Kettle is a prostitute, whereas Nick Boles is not. Because Martin Kettle was nobody has said anything like what Kettle had said or has said yesterday, that is Friday, the 30th of September 2022, in The Guardian or on The Guardian online. So I'm going off the camera for 1 minute. Nobody has said that because anyone with any sense of political competence let alone political honesty and political relevance, would have seen that Starmer was nothing to do with the kind of wise politician that the image that Kettlehead has now superimposed on Keir Starmer. Starmer is a limited individual, ill educated, ill schooled, and ill prepared, and ill disposed towards democratic, accountable society, accountable government, accountable regime, if he ever gets to number 10 Downing Street. And the fact that Keir Starmer is like that, limited, was clear 24 hours previously when the Sky News political editor, Beth Rigby, interviewed Starmer. And at the end of the interview, as broadcast, Rigby asked, "Are you going to be our next prime minister?" And without any hesitation, without any emotion, Starmer put on the face of a stone and said, "Yes." Now, as we said before, this question was wrong, as was Starmer's answer. Kettle became a kind of semi-populist Guardian type writer during the 1980s, I think, when he published the little paperback about the riots shortly after the 1985 riots, so-called, in protest against the murder, lethal attack on Sherry Gross, the black woman in her 30s, by the London Metropolitan Police. So Martin Kettle kind of jumped on the bandwagon and wrote that instant paperback commentary, or published that paperback by including newer pieces that he had written. Martin Kettle wrote that book along with a woman called Lucy something. And it was a typical Guardian piece. It was pretentious, it was dishonest, and it was opportunistic. And it didn't tell the truth about the racism of the police, which is what was the motive behind the police shooting this innocent mom, Sherry Gross, in October. Was it October or August, we'll check the date, 1985, I coined the word police to mean something wrong rather than police as it normally is used to mean. Because in the context of the police attack on Cherry Groves, the word police is a verb transitive and a criminal word reflected the actual behavior of the police. Now that was in the 1980s, 1985, 86, 87, whatever. And I took the pictures on a side of the road in Brixton, going towards the Brixton Town Hall, let's say going from central London. Going out of the, or coming out of the Brixton Underground station. I was in a car when I noticed that 2 or 3 policemen, white policemen, were beating up a man, unarmed man. And that is the picture that I included in the particular edition of the Black Parents Journal that I published not long after that. So when it comes to body language, when it comes to the relevant other expressions, physical expressions, the behavior of the police in beating up innocent members of the public showed that the police were out of control. So yesterday's Daily Telegraph, Boris Graf, interview with the new commissioner of the London Metropolitan Police, and also their piece that pretended to be an answer to the question about why the police have lost the confidence of the public. Now, the police in this country have been losing confidence of the public for decades. And hello, hold on. I can't hold it.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it has to come in anyway. You've got another plate because this plate's hot, alright? I've just got a quickly one.
I need the hot water. Have you got is there enough cold water in there?
Yeah, there's enough cold water. I'm going to do this. It's on its way, Shaw. There you go.
Thank you.
No, that's not good.
Martin, what do you know?
This broadcast is being made while being in the middle of a lot of activities in the background. Going back to the pretentious, opportunistic commentary written by Martin Kettle, who is now claiming to be one of Keir Starmer's biggest fans, typifies the completely corrupt role played by the so-called Guardian type journalists. The Guardian has known for as long as he should have known that policing has not existed in this country for a very long time, for decades, if not for more than a century, because there is no accountability for the police. The police are not obliged to be accountable to the public through any public process, public, democratic, legitimate process. And the police know that the Guardian type, the Guardian is supposed to be the only kind of title in Fleet Street that doesn't blindly support the racist assumptions that the Metropolitan Police practices. That the police is confident, has been confident that the Guardian would not expose it. And this is an example. When the Daily Mail, being edited by Paul Dacre, ran that front page in the Daily Mail, murderers, about these racists whom it accused of murdering Stephen Lawrence. This was historic not only for the racist Daily Mail, calling racists murderers. This was historic also because the Guardian should have done the investigative report and published a front page splash calling the racists murderers, but the Guardian never did. So contrary to the popular mythology around Fleet Street and the papers and their so-called liberal stance, the Guardian is even more racist in some cases than the ordinarily racist Daily Mail and the Murdoch scum. What we shall be doing is coming to the next part, continuing in the next half an hour. So we are calling this the end of this at 16:10 hours GMT. Just under half an hour, this part.